Alright, guys, so we have got to talk about this Gwyneth Paltrow case. Alright. This case is just full of surprises. Alright. I also watch Bose versus the World. Right. Totally with her on this one because, I mean, she even said it. She's never went she's never seen a case where she goes back and forth like every single day. You know what I'm saying? Um, Look, most of the lawyers in this case are just bad. Okay? Uh, and I do know there was someone that made a good point about that. They don't get a lot of practice in trials. All right. Um, so Gwyneth Paltrow's attorney, he just questioned Terry, about all of his trips, about all of his, extreme activities that he's been doing, scuba diving. I mean, just all kinds of crazy stuff, right? Does it hurt his case? A little bit. Not really as much as he thinks. I would assume that. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not a game breaker. All right. So what he's trying to establish is you can't really claim pain and suffering because you've been going scuba diving, you've been going skiing, you've been, traveling to other countries, right? So that's where he's trying to get to, right? You've not really suffered that much. Um, it does establish that a little bit. You guys will have to understand too, this is over a period of quite a long time, all right? Um, and just because he's still, just because he's not bedridden, right, and just completely unable to do anything, that does not mean he's not entitled to damages. That doesn't mean he didn't experience any pain and suffering, all right? Because he obviously did. I mean, he had what, 4 broken ribs or something like that. It's pretty severe incident for him, right? So I totally understand that. Uh, I really wanted, so I was really hoping we were going to have more important questions, right? Now, Bo says one of the two is obviously lying and they know it, right? And there's another possibility here. There's another option. What if Terry's mental state and the fact that he's blind in one eye, losing vision in the other, I mean, it leads me to think, what if, he is having some very serious medical issues and he doesn't know what happened? You know what I'm saying? Um, you know, if you only have vision in one eye, I mean, you're going to lose a lot of depth perception. You're you're going to have a much harder time being able to see and understand what's going on around you, especially skiing down a huge slope like that. I'm assuming it was a huge slope. I don't really know. Basically, what I'm saying is it's a lot easier to imagine a scenario to where he's skiing, he's going too fast, and his he can't process everything quickly enough, right? Because he only has vision in one eye, right? Uh, so what if she was there, maybe off to his side, the side where he doesn't have that good vision, right? He slams into her, doesn't see it. He doesn't see her. He just knows he hit something, right? Or something hit him. He doesn't really know what's going on. So his first thing in his mind was, you just hit me, right? He really thinks that, I think, that he's the one that was struck, right? Another thing I want to point out, when he said no one was there to help him after the collision, um, then he also says he was knocked out. He was unconscious for a bit. So how does he know no one was there helping him? You know what I'm saying? If you're unconscious, guess what? You have no idea what's going on. All right. So for all he knows, if he's laying there unconscious, there could have been a lot of people around him trying to check on him. Are you okay? Are you able to stand up? Can you walk? Anything, right? But he's unconscious. He don't know. So how's he going to say no one was checking on him? Right? It's a pretty good question, I think. But it's like I said, there's so much good and bad on both sides. So as far as Gwyneth Paltrow herself, I don't see any real issues there. But it's her attorneys. They're not doing a very good job, as I just stated. You know, the best line of questioning that I've gotten so far was him talking about him going on trips and stuff. All right? That doesn't really prove who hit who. If you really wanted to get down to it, talking about what vision he has, talking about his mental awareness of what's going on around him, especially being able to go ski and do all these other things, I would have wanted to talk to his other instructors. Because if he's scuba diving and doing all these other things, he has to have a lot of instructors to make sure he can do these activities without putting himself in danger. All right. I would like to hear from them. Is he putting himself in danger by doing all these things, or is he actually, like, he's okay? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I just think if you only have vision in one eye, and that vision isn't that great, why are you scuba diving? Why are you going skiing? Why are you doing all these things? You know what I'm saying? I get it. It's really hard to get to a point in your life to where, you know, you're just not able to do the things you used to do, right? Like maybe he's having like a midlife crisis, like this maybe his bucket list. I really, like, I'm just trying to tell you guys what I'm thinking about it so far. Um, it just doesn't sound like he's in good enough health to be able to do all these things, right? So I'm just, genuinely concerned about his lifestyle at this point, right? Um, I mean, especially if he was in a collision and doesn't even know that he was the one that hit her, right? Of course, that's not, like, I don't know that for sure. I'm just saying right now, that's what it looks like. All right. Uh, the other option is she did hit him and just doesn't want to pay him the money. All right. Um, I really think, though, she probably doesn't have to worry about money like that. You know what I'm saying? And I think to have that be the outcome of this case, that, look, you were at fault. You just didn't want to pay him the money you owed him, right? That would be a horrible thing. That would be a huge dent to her career. A lot of people wouldn't respect that. They would say, you know what? That's a horrible thing to do. Like, if you're responsible for someone having serious injuries, then pay for their medical bills, help them out, don't be a horrible person. So that's why I'm thinking, like, she's not at fault, right? That's why I'm thinking that. I just don't think she would want to put her whole career in jeopardy over a few $1,000,000, right? Because I'm sure she's worth way more than that. All right. So I just can't see her, saying, I don't care if everyone finds out that I'm at fault. I still don't want to pay him the money, right? I just cannot imagine, because that could end up costing her entire career, right? If no one wants to go and see your actress in a movie, they're not going to cast you anymore. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I mean, it's just a hard thing to imagine that she was at fault, that she just doesn't want to pay up. All right, that would be horrific. And if that's the case, like, for sure, I wouldn't go and see a movie that she's in. I really wouldn't, and I think a lot of people would also say, that's wrong. All right, you're at fault. You need to help that man out. You know what I'm saying? Do I think that's the case? I really don't. I just cannot imagine that she's that type of person. Now, of course, she's an actor, so we don't really know for sure. That's just my 2 cents on the matter. All right, I just don't see it. So I did watch a few minutes of this. All right. And his lawyer was actually making some good points here. Although, when she questioned Gwyneth, that was some of the weirdest questioning I've ever seen. All right. Really bizarre. All right. Let's go ahead and check this out, y'all. This is such a crazy case.
It's my time. Yes, thank you. So, you need a drink?
I've been.
All right. Terry, you've been shown lots of pictures about all the different travels that you've done. Have you always traveled in your life?
I have. Well, no, just since retirement mostly, but
Okay. You've traveled before?
yes.
Traveled after the accident?
Oh, yes.
Have you ever told this jury or tried to insinuate in this trial that you couldn't travel?
Absolutely not.
Why did you travel? After the ski accident, why did you travel?
It was part of the healing process. I was told by several neurologists and cognitive therapists, get back to your routine. The sooner you can do that, the better you'll be, and that's been proven in some research.
Now, all these pictures, they look really great. I mean, you're smiling, you're happy.
Reflexive.
Did you struggle on those trips?
Yes, I really did. I couldn't go by myself anymore. And I found that out the hard way when Robin decided that she didn't like me anymore after 5 years. I asked my daughter to go along.
Now, that is something I really hope she gets nails down. You know what I'm saying? I could imagine this being a hard ordeal for him, especially if he's having to come to terms with the fact that he doesn't really know what happened. That's my interpretation of this so far, right? I think until recently he's been really thinking she ran into him and doesn't want to help him out. But I think now he might be starting to see that, oh, wait a minute. I think maybe I ran into her, but I didn't see her. All right. I didn't know what happened. I was just blindsided, right? Because he couldn't see. That's what I think happened here. She was in his blind spot, is what I'm thinking. right? So I could see that being a possibility. If he never saw anything in front of him, and he just knows a collision happened and he's knocked unconscious, right? He thinks someone ran into him. It makes sense to me. Y'all let me know what y'all think.
And she didn't get there until the next morning. Bought her a flight, and she came over, and what did I do? Stepped off the curb.
Now, which daughter was that?
Jenny B.
That's Jenny. That's the
Yeah.
Jenny that we've heard all about, that said all kinds of nasty things about you. She went on a trip to Europe with you.
Yes, and we had a great time. Yes, we did.
All right.
She loved it.
You were shown some pictures of the green team and volunteering.
Yes.
You talked a little bit about that last week, but what has this accident done to you with volunteering?
Wow. It has just shut down my volunteer work. I tried dozens of different volunteer groups I worked with, probably 200 hours a year volunteer easily. And Green Team was a big one. I go up and pick up aluminum, plastic, hard work, bending, stooping, lifting, 16,000 steps, and you get everything done by 1 o'clock in the morning, go home. And my plan was to do that, but I got lost. And it took me a long time to figure out how to get home. I refused to use my maps. I just don't need it. But that was the first real time that I thought, oh my, something is really different. I have no instincts for north anymore like I used to.
And you've been here now all this week. You've heard all kinds of.
Well, the damage to his ribs wouldn't have anything to do with that. All right. This would have to be a head injury, is something that could cause that. All right. So was there ever any brain scans on him? Right? Because I haven't been watching the whole trial. I've just been watching, people react to certain things. I've watched a few of the questioning, right? So y'all let me know. What do y'all think about the case? Who do you think is at fault here?
Doctors talking about how you were getting old, how you were worried about dementia, all of these mental issues. This is just a natural progression of how you were. The jury's heard from family and friends that witnessed how you changed.
This is leading, Your Honor.
I'm just setting the background. I'm going to ask the question right now.
Okay, well, I'd like to hear it.
What is your perception, Terry, how you changed? Was it dramatic? Was it slow? What changes did you see and did you perceive following this ski collision?
Okay, that's a good question.
Looking back on that time, I was determined to prove I didn't have any mental issues. Everything I did was to stamp that in my record, that this guy is trying hard. He does not want to bring that into his life. It was a big deal. And I just found that it was like flipping a switch. It was like I looked back and it was the bright side, and now I'm in the dark side. And my volunteering stopped, so a lot of my self-esteem stopped. I couldn't do it. I couldn't do the job. In fact, I got chewed out by somebody I knew for 30 years saying, not that long, 15 years, saying, Terry.
Sounds like hearsay, Your Honor.
Excited utterance.
Sorry, honey.
And it's not offered for the truth.
You may answer it'll be accepted for a limited purpose.
I can
You
answer.
can answer, yes.
I kept getting chewed out because I couldn't remember what I was doing, even though I'd done it for so many years. And I tried it again a second time, maybe 2 years later, and I got chewed out again by a lady I'd known for quite a while. I was going, something's different about me. So,
And Terry, how did that make you feel?
it's always nice, and you know that if you walk.
Here is one problem I'm having with this. And I'm wondering how many other people might have the same interpretation. He's saying cognitively, like, he's on the decline now, right? He's well aware of what's going on. He's not having any trouble answering the questions. He's not having any issues at all, right? So how is it that he's perfectly lucid right now, but then he's saying like he's forgetting everything? Everyone's like, oh, you don't know anything anymore, or whatever else he's talking about, right? It just doesn't seem to fit. I could be wrong. Maybe it does. Maybe it's just comes and goes. I have no idea.
Into a room and he says, "Hey, come on over here, it's Terry," But when they just say, "Oh, it's Terry," there's something different. There's people don't see me the same way, and I don't feel the same, and it's very disappointing. To short answer, very discouraging.
You were asked about the press conference and referring to Miss Paltrow as King Kong. Were you referring to her as King Kong or the noise that you heard?
That's leading, Your Honor.
What did King Kong refer to?
King Kong.
Sustained.
I'll withdraw it.
Overruled. Go
That's
ahead.
fine.
My apologies to Ms. Paltrow, because my intention got twisted up in my intentions and was to say sounded like a lady getting chased by King Kong out of the jungle. It was that kind of I'm really scared.
Okay. And I want you to describe that, okay? Because you kind of whispered it a little bit last week. When did you hear a scream?
As I passed those big signs that said, "Slow down," seriously, I just went into a glide. I just started gliding. I was going plenty slow, not passing anybody on my left. I just started gliding. And then the silence was broken of that, just simply gliding down the hill, not making turns, and always on the right side. And the silence was broken with a hysterical scream, the very best hysterical scream you've ever heard.
At what point did the scream happen? Was it before you were hit, when you were hit, as you're going down? When was it?
I heard it and tensed up, right, absolutely a half a second probably before I got hit. In fact, I'm not so sure the scream even ended when I got hit. It ended as she hit me, and then over we went.
Okay. So there was some testimony from Ms. Paltrow again that...
Now, here's something that I just thought about. All right. So, they've had experts say that if he hit her, he would not have received those types of injuries. All right. Because she would have basically broken his fall. All right. I can see a scenario to where he still would have received those injuries if he landed on top of her. All right. So what I'm thinking about is maybe her elbows were pointed up, right? If she holds her arms out, but then as she falls, right, and lands on her hands, then her elbows are going to shoot upwards, right? Right in the pathway, possibly, for his ribs to land on. There's also her ski poles. Maybe he landed on the ski poles. See what I'm saying? So, the idea that there was nothing there, like he lands on her, there's nothing there that could have caused that damage, I don't think so. I think there's plenty of things that could have caused his ribs to break. You know what I'm saying?
That she was hit in the back by a very large man, or that there was a very large man. Could you just step down for just a moment?
This states the testimony, Your Honor. Can we get a question?
Could you just step off the stand for just a moment?
Could you get a question? What does that mean?
I'm going to ask the question.
From the
She's
questioner, okay.
inserting evidence into the record.
Overruled. The jury will remember what the evidence was.
Terry, do you... No, right here. Right here. Do you consider yourself a very large man?
That doesn't matter.
I was, but no, definitely on the small side of most people.
This is irrelevant. What matters is it was her interpretation. She was hit by a very large man. Also, anyone that would have slammed into her, she would have felt like they're a very large person. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't necessarily mean they are, because you got to remember they're coming with a lot of force behind them. They're actively skiing. They're traveling pretty fast. All right. So, and also, compared to her size, he is a very large man. All right. So this is irrelevant. This is what I was talking about, y'all. Her line of questioning sometimes is just bizarre. All right.
There's a reason I asked Ms. Paltrow why she was 5'10", or how tall she was last week.
Why she-
Commentary. Let's have questions.
Ms. Paltrow testified she was
Overruled, it's just prefatory. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Ms. Paltrow testified she was 5'10" last week. How tall are you, Terry?
5'5".
Thank you. The accident that day, the ski accident that day, were there a lot of people on the run? Was it crowded or was it deserted?
Most runs that I've seen, it was, compared to most runs, it was very crowded. I would say moderately to high full is what it seemed like. Lots of people.
And were you skiing back and forth on the run, or did you stick to the right side?
That's another fact that's been changed. I was on the right side, exactly like I said. Saw all the people congealed in the middle and just went diagonal straight over to the right side and stayed inside of that 5-yard boundary where nobody was. One lone person coming out once in a while that I was wary of that was down a ways. Mm-hmm.
And that's when the scream happened, and that's when you were hit.
Absolutely, and there was no one in front of me.
And how did you land, to your recollection?
Downhill, of course. I'm going downhill, so our heads are downhill. So that's, I saw down the hill and crashed there. And I didn't remember doing this, but I did put my hands out to catch myself. That was instinctual, saved my face. But we landed, and I remember lurching off the right foot. As I got hit, I thought I got to use whatever I can, and I pushed deliberately a little bit to the right because I did not want anyone in the crowd to get tangled up in us as they were going by. And I did see, just before I hit the ground, I just remember seeing a skier on the left go by. I was safe.
Mr. Owens asked you, hit and run. You said it was a hit and run. Why did you say it was a hit and run?
I always considered a hit and run was something when you ran into something or somebody and then you just left the scene. And as far as I'm concerned, there was no one there when I woke up. No one except an angry man, as I said, and then I saw Craig.
And is that how you felt, that
That's
it was a
how
hit
I
and
felt
run?
that I was, yes, that was like if you get knocked down and knocked out and nobody's around afterwards that did it, that's a hit and run.
Okay.
Thank you for
Do you realize you are the reason your life has been exposed to the world? You, not Miss Paltrow.
I'm realizing that now, yes. Painful.
Do you remember, you've said you've shrunk and lost weight since the incident, right?
Well, I gained, I ballooned.
Now, when we stand you up, you've lost like 15 pounds and shrunk 3 inches, right?
I had
Yes or no?
I had no idea. I guess yes.
What?
Just a few days ago, you said I was 175 to 80 and 5'8".
How does he shrink? I could understand him losing weight, but your height shouldn't change like that. That doesn't make any sense. All right.
Remember?
I said that not here. Oh, you know what?
In this very trial.
Overruled.
I know why I said that. It's because the VA records weighs you with all your clothes and everything on it. And I knew that's what you were reading, was what
Clothes
the VA
don't
reported.
give you 3 inches. You with me?
Heels do.
Did you have heels on?
No, not at all.
All right. You even called yourself pudgy.
So what's going on
at the
here?
time that you were pudgy. Do you remember that word?
What
Do you
time?
dispute using the pudgy?
What time frame?
The time when I deposed you, you said you were pudgy.
Okay, that's kind of a fun term. Yeah.
Do you dispute it?
I don't.
What does that word mean?
I never thought about it. Just sort of got a little more roundish, I guess. Haven't defined that before.
Did I hear you say you didn't like to be ignored? Don't ignore me. Are those the words you used?
Just now?
Just 2 minutes ago.
I probably did say that.
Let's go to page 170 of your deposition and ask that it be published and brought up. Do you have your transcript right there?
I do. I think so. I think that's what.
And you see, I'm going to start reading at line 12.
You skip for the good stuff.
This lady is on my left. Well, let's go back for a little. Remember, I said I want to know what's going on in the 10 seconds before the impact. Do you remember?
I do remember that, but is it written here? I don't know.
Yes, that's my question on page 169. And then on 170, you said, and then I remember there's this lady on my left that was kind of tentative. So I deliberately, in fact, I think I said passing on your right. Pretty sure I did. I usually do. Passing on your right. And then, you know, it was just easy. It was just as easy, smooth glide. And there were not a whole lot of people. And what, I'm not, I don't want to be interrupted right now, please. Page 170. And when I got to that point, I could see the bottom of the hill. I could see that the trees came in a little bit from the right, it seems like, and then the whole slope was opened up. There were a few occasional people out there, but I could see all the way to the bottom. There were nobody.
Yes.
And then this, and nobody could have passed on my left except the gal I had just passed. So that gal I was really conscious of, because I still worried about her. And so as I went past her, I went inches per second past her. I just remember it took forever for me to get past her. And there were skis. And when they disappeared out of my vision, that's the time I heard this. So, that's the time I heard this saw, indicating scream, and then bang.
It really sounds like he saw her, he knew she was there, but at some point he lost sight of her and thought that he had passed her, that she was out of his vision, right? But it could be she was in his blind spot. He didn't see her. He just thought he'd passed her. That's why he didn't see her anymore. Bam, he runs into her. You know what I'm saying? That could be what happened here.
It happened. It was about a second and a half, and it just hit me right in the back. All right. So do you recall that in the seconds before the collision, you were worried about the person to your left? Do you recall that?
I gave her plenty of space because she seemed like I moved way to the right before the off-piste, yes.
But you were with inches of her.
No, I was not within inches of her, no.
All right, what did you say here? Well, first of all, did I correctly read your testimony?
Yes.
All right. You were inches per second past her.
Moving very slowly, yes.
I just remember it took forever to get past her, and there were skis. Now, your right eye has problems, right?
A little bit, yeah.
Not a little bit.
Yes, a little bit.
Blind.
No,
You told 3 of your providers at the VA, I'm blind in my right eye.
I use the word loosely.
You used it, and you're an optometrist, right?
I did.
All right. So let's not say little bit, because that's pretty different from blind.
It is.
All right. So you're trying to not hit this person on the left, and you're blind in your right eye, do you agree that you turned to clear the person on your left?
No, I knew I had plenty of room before I started by her. I wouldn't have gone by her without knowing I had plenty of room.
You took great care.
Now, at first, I was kind of thinking, if she's off to his left and he's blind in his right eye, he should have saw her, right? His left eye should have been on her. He should have saw her, right? But what could have actually happened, maybe he was overcompensating for his right eye not having vision. So he was looking off to his right to make sure he's not missing anything over there to his right. And while he was doing that, he hits her on the left. That could be what happened.
Didn't you? To make sure you didn't hit the beginner skier on the left.
Yeah, she just don't go over.
Is that true?
Yes.
That's all. Thank you.
Sure sounds like he hit her.
Were you skiing cautiously?
You know, I've had a long time to think about whether I want to be dangerous or cautious, and I choose cautious. Yes, I don't take chances.
What is your vision like in your...
That's not what she asked. She asked, were you skiing dangerously? Or cautiously, I don't remember exactly what her question was. But she asked, at that time, were you being cautious or not? He didn't answer that question.
right eye?
My vision, I will compare it to a flat light day. I have flat light days, if anybody knows what that means. It seems you just can't tell the contours as well of where you're at, and so you have to be a little more careful. Make sure you get in the right spot at the right time. And so I get a lot of practice skiing flat light days. That's what it amounts to, I think. It's how I describe it.
Any trouble skiing with your right eye?
Never any trouble. And unrestricted skiing. They don't handicap me on the ski slope or driver's license. I'm unlimited. I do fine.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
No more questions.
So now he's saying he's not really blind in his right eye. It's not as bad as he's been saying it is. Well, that's awfully convenient for him to say that now. You know what I'm saying? Really convenient, because now he needs us to think, oh, his vision's fine, right? There's no possible way he ran into her because his vision wasn't that great. All right. So I think his vision is really bad and getting worse. All right. That's my interpretation. That's why I think he ran into her and he doesn't know it. All right. Because he couldn't see her. All right. But the last thing I want to say, you know, I have a lot of sympathy for him. You know what I'm saying? I don't think he's being malicious here. I think he just doesn't, he doesn't realize that he's the one that was at fault. That he ran into her. That's what I think. All right. So I really feel bad for him. You know, and I think his attorneys should have spent a lot more time going over all this stuff with him before he got to this point where he's like, okay, let's go ahead and file the paperwork. Let's get this lawsuit started. All right. That's what I think should have happened. I think they should have been a lot more thorough and nailing down all the facts. Let's make sure, you know, what you think happened, that's actually what happened. Because if you were at fault, we really don't want to take this to, you know, to a trial, right? And go through all this for nothing. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think. Y'all let me know what y'all think too. So, alright. That's it for now, y'all.